So good morning, all. It's a pleasure to be here again to our second masterclass of this series of webinars with myself and Mr. Guido, my colleague. And today the topic that we wish to bring you is the legal project management as a mechanism for to be used by law firms or in-house departments. We are going to take you in a journey of a few slides. We're not going to be able to be in depth to all of them, but this is the beginning of what we wish in ELTA Academy to be also the development of in-depth trainings for the professionals that seek this skills and this knowledge. So with no further ado, I also would like then to say thank you to all our ELTA members that joined today. And for the ones who cannot, this webinar will be then in our YouTube channel. Please don't forget to go there, subscribe, hit the like button, and follow us for more content that can bring you value. Don't be shy in reaching out to us in topics that you would like to be seen in these masterclasses and even to join us as co-lecturers of them. So, Guido, shall we start this journey and tell me how are you and how is Germany?
Yeah, great. So it's a lovely day for just like starting a more project orientated topic which we picked today. So I think this is really important, and I'm just really looking forward to just like think about it, talk about it, and share our thoughts on it. I just have to see, how that works. Great. So first of all, Marisa, who we are is probably interesting for the audience. So I would say ladies first. Being a gentleman, that's so important these days.
Well, it's always nice to have that kind of courtesy, Guido. So I will not wave it away. Well, for the ones who do not know me, my name is Marisa Monteiro Borsboom. I'm now currently leading the ELTA Academy, or since the beginning of it. And I'm also the Vice President, Ambassador for Portugal for many, many years, and Director of the chapter that we created locally. But my base is being a lawyer, a Portuguese lawyer still registered in the Bar Association of Portugal, and now also in the Dutch Bar Association as a Portuguese lawyer, and being in between these two countries and in between what is the traditional legal scene and the technology, being fascinated for this world. I'm also the CEO and General Counsel of MQM Legal Center, and I have a few other hats, but not wanting to bother anybody, just to tell you that I am an eternal student. Therefore, I like to create programs that I would like to be sitting and listening to. So Guido, it's your turn.
My turn. Yes, my name is Guido Assoff. I'm from the outskirts of Cologne in Germany. As you can see, I'm a Rechtsanwalt, which is a horrible word for non-German speaking people. Probably not so hard for the Dutch speaking, but however, as you can see, I'm mainly focusing on IT law and on intellectual property issues, as well as on data protection and compliance. So I'm owner of my own law firm, which is called Assoff Legal, and I'm CEO and owner of Markinto, which is a consultancy firm mainly focusing on, let's say, compliance, data protection, and anything which is around on complex, let's say, legal projects. So that's my background, and that's why probably we're able to just like give you some ideas of our daily work and on things we're facing actually in our legal work every day. So, and one thing is for sure project management and management of legal issues.
Well, that is one of the topics that myself and my own career development, thought that I missed. So I think many of us, when we progress in our careers, understand that the training we had did not brought us the basic of what we needed to know. And project management, I think, it should be vital in what is the understanding of a case, a simple case. So all of these skills that many of us seek then independently after law schools or bar association trainings are now being more and more requested. And therefore, let's see if we can at least leave a glimpse today of what is the overview, and for the ones who are just beginning or the ones who want to explore with us perspectives and possibilities.
Great. Yeah, just let's jump into the topic, I would say, with why legal project management matters. Probably as a start off, I came across, these project management methods and the need to apply them, especially in complex data protection implementation projects, which are a little bit different from our legal day-to-day work. But I would say, planning and project management helps you as well in legal cases, in contract drafting. I put a few points on there, which is change management on law firms. We want to touch a little bit on software development and compliance efforts. So there are so many things where a structured way to do something, really helps, but not only you, but also your clients and your colleagues, in order to achieve more with, let's say, not really less effort, but with just like steering your efforts more economically. Marisa, please feel free to add.
Well, I think, as you said, I start seeing the need of understanding of management in a broad spectrum when I did open my first law firm, and understood that it was not just the legal work that I needed to know. So it for me, it was from the beginning, but it was very intuitive the way I was trying to learn, not really following what then I understood that is a really good training base. You have so many good institutes of project management per se. And I saw other colleagues in other areas using this project management or being the project managers, and immediately see that this was something that would benefit us for sure as legal professionals, either in-house, either in our own law firms. At the same time as you, Guido, I think when we did start working with GDPR, myself certified as a data protection officer in 2018, I understood that even to interact with bigger teams, with more complex ways of working, really benefit from having this almost like a GPS, right, that guide us all to where we want to arrive. It's how I like to see it in my own way of thinking. I don't know if you agree with the metaphor, Guido.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when we probably think about differences of, terms which are getting more and more common. And I would say, especially when we think about probably modern management methodology like Scrum or OKRs, so objectives and key results, which you can use in order to cope, with such a let's say massive projects, or at least to think how to get rid of impediments. So when we our first aim is just like to keep definitions right. And there is a lot of just like talking about legal design thinking and legal design management. So we don't actually want to touch it too deeply today, because we want to just like focus on project management. So when it comes to LPM as an abbreviation, it's more about applying project management techniques in a legal context, or to adapt these techniques to a legal context in order to develop services or render particular services, rather than, using a design approach to, let's say, better understand the context and needs of people and design products, or let's say technology. I think if you're looking at the technology side, you really need both, because you need, a project planning, and you need, let's say, a deep understanding for the legal issues which, might occur when developing, and might set certain impediments in your project. And it's just like a slight difference between these terms, and therefore it's just like setting clear what we're going to talk about today.
I agree. And recently I was in a contract management day, and I thought it was very interesting that one of the gentlemen that had a solution or in-house said that one of his big problems when he arrives and he's invited to come and help his law is the lack of process, right? And no, we do it like this, and not understanding that the way we used to work is not helping introducing the changes we need, and managing change, and managing technology, and managing more complex interaction of broader teams, as also the services themselves are reshaped as we go with all this new amazing worlds of even now with generative AI and what comes right in the future. So I think this will be maybe the core that can allow us all to be properly aligned and maintain this alignment as we go.
Yeah, and I would say keep the client in mind. So whatever you do, so it doesn't really matter if you develop software for lawyers, or let's say in-house counsels, or if you're in a legal project, keep the persons in mind which are involved, because usually literacy really differs between the people you have to work with, and this is a very big issue. Maurice and I discussed it lately with regard to a slight different topic. But if you just look at legal project design in a, let's say, perfect world, or what's the real world, being a lawyer, and you all experience that you usually get a problem from a client. And you have to solve a legal problem at a certain point in time. And we usually have some mechanisms to apply the law. So we try to structure the case, and then apply the law, and then see what the legal conclusion is. And you usually do that by using your own knowledge base, which is more formalized or less formalized. So probably you have templates, and you have most of the time and material in mind in order to build, because it's a need for the law firm in order to be productive. But we come back to that later. And if you just juxtapose it to project management, would be that you try to apply project management tools in order to solve a legal issue, a legal problem, or a technical problem, or a process. So you try to be even more systematic on your approach by just simply scoping, the project, then planning. We will get to the point why planning is key in our point of view, then managing the project, and then just controlling and getting a resume on what you did, how the project went, in order to get knowledge of the lessons you learned from every project, in order to get better and better.
And as we go, I think also, of course, if we need to have the client in mind, I always think that you start having your team in mind. And for me, bringing tools to in-house departments or to law firms, and just say to the lawyers to play with them, it's not the best approach. And we've been seeing the difficulties of this kind of mindset, because you cannot really test or play with things that you really don't understand how they work. So what I would say is, yes, do have the client in mind, but start with yourself. Know thyself, in a sense of know your team, know the skills of your team. Don't be shy to not or to say that you don't have enough knowledge on a topic. And if law firms do want to enhance the capacity of their lawyers or in-house of their counsels, providing this basic trainings would be already an added value. So then by the time that we have the tools, you have an augmented team ready to understand what they're going to use, almost like a driver's license before you start driving a car, in a sense that you know the basics and you can start then experimenting and then enhancing your knowledge in that tool.
That's a good point because, to my experience, technology is usually not the silver bullet. If you didn't just like try it and look at your use cases, how technology will support you, especially when it comes to AI and the new topics of legal tech. From my experience, I was a product manager at Wolters Kluwer, just like 2006 to 2008. So that was a time that I was talking about legal tech because the term was unknown, but it was pretty much the same. So we worked on electronic publications, and and the problem always was, we didn't keep the lawyer in mind because it's good to have a lot of decisions or just like templates. But if you can't mingle it with, your own knowledge base, knowing what's working, what is not working, what's working with a client, it's always a good combination to be literate, not only, on the legal side, but on the, let's say, delivery side as well. So that's why, we find it very, very interesting to just like see why is there a need for project and process management, because it's getting more and more important to get things done more efficiently, because the legal world is changing, and we often have to manage uncertainty, as this is kind of a default setting due to the problems we're facing with our clients, because they usually are not from our, let's say, legal background, and therefore they really have problems in just like evaluating what their problem really is. So it's very important to structure a legal process as well, to streamline your own legal process, or if you're from an in-house perspective, to have a better overview of your overall processes and just like managing legal requirements, such as privacy, because usually it's very, very stiff corset we're working in. And therefore, especially modern project management approaches such as Scrum, we will come to that later, what that is, or, setting up objectives and what might be your key results, are really important in order to cope with, let's say, uncertain projects and long-term projects, because they might have a fatal you really want to avoid.
I tested these on the go.
Sorry, we had some interference. No problem. As we go along, is also, I think it would be important to maybe leave a note that we are seeing an increase of complexity of compliance. We are seeing an increase of complexity in the technologies that we use, and even the risk management of the technologies that we use. So having this clear view in-house of what you're doing, it almost like as we do in GDPR with the data mapping, in a way, this legal project management mindset does give you kind of a spine to unite what you're doing internally, and to understand what do you have in-house, your assets, your data, your cases, your lawyers or counsels, your clients. So your legal intelligence, the matters of cybersecurity. So as the complexity grows, we need to have better solutions for this. And I think, as Guido was saying, the modern project management approaches are trying to give the answer to this issue that we all face.
Yeah, because as you said, where can we apply LPMs, or what might be problems is just like GDPR implementation or compliance implementation, because these projects are usually huger than just like a single case you have to bring into court, or where you have to, you're facing, let's say, M&A projects, which are huge, which start off with negotiations and due diligence, but working on a contract and getting all the amendments and, let's say, annexes together is really, really hard work, and you usually get lost in the scope of something. And if you have just like contract projects in mind, process and project management tools can be really great, because we started off, especially in IT contracts, to try to do it a little bit more algorithmic, meaning just like discussing the needs of the client. So what he really needs to implement, or what he can implement technically into a contract in order to draft it. Usually, if you have a better just like understanding by using simple tools like Excel sheets for requirements and change requests and so on, really help you to get better results in a more efficient time. So that is key. And you all know these awkward situations when you're discussing with your partners in your law firm. I will come to an example, which happened to me. About changes, about just like boosting turnovers and whatsoever. So these are usually change management processes where you can apply these tools as well. So and from a legal tech management, I see there's a typo. If you just like thinking about tech solutions, or even the purchase of software tools, or your clients are purchasing software tools, bearing in mind that planning is really key, and that literacy is really key, and just like what something shall define for, and what is the regulatory requirements for that, is really key, and really helps you a lot with just like better results in my experience.
And also, Guido, one of the things that I always say to, for example, in the case of compliance, is that one thing is the beginning of any project, but the maintenance of compliance is a huge problem, right? So in the case of privacy, that we both know that very well, that world, it's not even so much the beginning or the reports or the first data, it's the maintenance of all of this, right? And if you have a proper design, and you see as a management situation, something to be managed, then you understand that you need the proper infrastructure of management with the tools and the processes and the people that will be assuring that this is guaranteed, and not just overlooked, as so many times happens.
Really good point as well, because sometimes, especially clients or in-house colleagues I worked with, think if we have just like a software solution for processes, this will help us a lot. But I see rather often that that software and the processes in there don't really fit to the organization, and therefore it's either not used, or it's senseless with just like maintaining a system and strengthening a system. So that is very important. And when it comes to our legal world, I just named it, it's a puzzle to work on, because we live in a surrounding where we have some uncertainty by default. when we work, because legal issues are not always precisely controllable for just like different reason. You know, sometimes it's really depending on the client's literacy in the field they try to apply law or they have a problem with. They usually have problems with facts and figures of the past, and it's just like a view from the rear view mirror, because you cannot change, you know, the facts and figures which happened in the past. So probably a good approach is to just like look at your clients and act more proactively, so your clients do more things right upfront. So another point why design phase is so very important. And uncertainty can happen from the personality of your clients as well. So you really have to manage expectations there. You know, another thing is that a client's perfect goal might not always be attainable. And as I said, law is a very rigid corset, and we have to deal with that and changing circumstances all the time. And just like having tools in order to streamline your processes and to streamline such a project really helps you, because it's usually, you know, delivers value. And, you know, happy client, happy lawyer, I would say. Just
And also,
adapting.
Guido, if you allow me, of course, and as we know that so many of these tools are even used not so much by sometimes the traditional law firms, but the in-house departments. As we see, the complexity of legal teams is increasing, not only for the different backgrounds and the need to interconnect different professionals in a team, but also different environments. I think one of the big plus for all of us is this hybrid environment that we're living, multinational environment. I can be working as sometimes it happens, and I'm in the Netherlands. I have colleagues in Portugal, I have colleagues in Germany, I have colleagues in Brazil, and we're all trying to sometimes work with the same client that is also multinational. So the complexities of internally, not only the relationship between the service and the client, but the relationship of the service internally, of the different people, the different geographies, the different landscapes, or in the office or hybrid. All of this brought a lot of richness, but also brought a lot of headaches of how can we do, in fact, operate more efficiently and more valuable, not only efficiency, because if it's only efficient without value in the sense of quality, then you're just saving time for the sake of saving time, but providing also the ability for even small structures, small law firms working together in cooperation, and then serve more, maybe sometimes more agile, even multinationals, or increasing the capacity of interim positions. All of this requires a bigger thinking capacity of managing, and the word is always the managing of this whole, and seeing the project management as a framework for bringing the capacity of organizing the big puzzle that we have in the house.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and it's a good point with regard to organizations, because that can differ a lot. You know, working in a just like usual law firm, it's really completely different than, you know, being a outsourced in-house counsel, working with a compliance team of 4 people, working with a legal team of additional 4 people, being, for instance, the DPO of a company and having your just like DPO organization. And that's probably a different point of view, because you know, your main focus might be business acceleration rather than just like solving more or less legal problems. So get adapted to that views, and get adapted how to just like deal with, let's say, certain topics of just like the interplay between hybrid organizations. So it's really getting different. And I mentioned that case of change management and of a law firm. You will see it. You can read it on a different slide later on. Actually, what happened to me was I was working in medium-sized law firms specialized in media law here in the Cologne area, being 7 partners, and some were afraid that we didn't do enough in order to just like earn enough money for everybody. So it was just like a big hilarious partners meeting we were all sitting at, and we were just like trying to think about boosting our business, and as, let's say, project management or agile methodology like Scrum is not so familiar. And let's be clear, lawyers are more or less old-fashioned people. If you just like have colleagues in their mid-60s or something, they're more or less reluctant to adopt to these learning curve, and mastering whole new vocabulary or new IT tools. I worked with a colleague who was just like working with just like paper files and just like an analog dictation system. He didn't really have a just like a laptop or something else, and that was back in 2017, not so long ago. But he was just like a very renowned colleague. And he would never shift it to being more technology orientated in his work. And
I would like to provoke you, Guido, that
yeah.
and recently I was fascinated with a professor that, well, he's a former Oxford literary scholar. McGilchrist is his name. I will share in the chat his proper name so you see it. And there's 2 things he says related to our over complex civilization. One is the overregulation, and the second is this idea that you bring technology even when it's not needed. And he gives a hilarious example of a simple check that he used to be paid in the past with a simple reception of a bank check that he would then be able to easily claim in the bank. And now he was for 4 months from platform to platform, not able to have his payment done. And in the end, both a person that worked in the university and him in a human conversation saying, oh my God, this was made so much more complex than needed. So I think it's also an understanding of the critical thinking of things. If you have a lawyer that works in a small region with his own office with a few clients, his processes are what he needs. He doesn't need technology to make it more complex. And unfortunately, also, as we assume that the new generations that were born in the digital era are in fact literate, and they are not. This is not like osmosis that comes to our brain just because we are in contact with it. Is also a failure of understanding that sometimes, and I had those cases in my own life, that I needed to teach basic rules of Excel, or even how to use words in documents for very young professionals. So I think we are actually in the crossroads of also understanding the new needs of a world that changed too fast for our own good, and is also seeing now what does not work. Being technology itself is not a free pass for being neither quality, neither real efficient, even if we are sold like it. So, and sometimes is also very good to still learn with those amazing minds that do know the law and they do win cases in court. So let's have also this in the table for discussion. And like I say, maybe they don't use the complex words of a project management or an agile, but the best of them did use the mindset of those same tools.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I experience a lot of time that change really hurts, and a silly, the good thing is, if you have thought about your processes before, I know a lot of law firms which didn't do that before. It's just like, doing cases and just like writing bills to client in order to get a lot of just like cash flow in order to pay whatever is needed. So looking at your processes really helps, and a silly, usual process stays a silly digital process if it's just like implemented into technology. So that is pretty clear. But our initial thought was just like to use Scrum for, or certain elements of Scrum, just like stand-ups, weekly stand-ups for just like 15 minutes or 30 minutes, in order to just like discuss thoughts and ideas, what could be prospects, what could be just like products and so on, in order to just like establish new business. And it didn't, at the end it didn't really work out, because nobody came to the first stand up, and everybody was so, especially the older guys, were so reluctant to do that we didn't really come to a project there. So just think about just like internal resistance as well. And that's just like the case we were just like discussing. So you can use change and process and project management for internal organization as well. So then I would say it's getting more and more important as requirements shift, especially from clients and from in-house operations, and probably just and everybody just like has its story. And why I came to this thinking about just like project management measures, it's just like takeaways from various projects. So being an IT lawyer, I frequently ask from clients to help them with failed IT projects, which is more or less always a problem with the planning as well. So you just like start to dig deep in process and project management and failures, which can happen. As Marisa, you already mentioned, implementation of data privacy management systems. Sounds so easy. Usually a project over just like, I would say, 18 to 24 months in order to establish, and then it's just like a never-ending story, which you really have to cope with. You have to audit, and where you have to apply just like process and project management tools. You can say it's just like avoiding administrative fines for your clients, or implementation of whistleblowing tools here in Germany. It's always more or less a project plan which you have to consider in order to get things done, and in order to set up a system which works for the client. So that is the background how we came across these topics. And Marisa, I think this will be pretty much the same with you as with my experience.
Indeed. Sorry, I took the sound away because there was interferences in the office.
Yeah,
so the steps. I love steps. I love formulas, and beyond what is the vague considerations and definitions, what can we do in practice for the ones who really want to start having a glimpse of the hands-on project management mindset?
Actually, just like adapting a little bit, to the legal side, it's always starts with defining the project objectives and the scope. So where you want to go to, actually, in order to be able to start planning and see how to just like to define milestones and timelines and, let's say, teams and efforts and probably technology which you have to work with, or which the clients wants you to work with, and then it's just like executing the plan. So doing the legal work or the project work. And usually it's, coming with monitoring and measuring. So that's probably a perfect plan to do that. But don't be afraid to adapt, because sometimes monitoring and measuring in an uncertain environment is might be a hard task to do, because I personally found it quite hard, especially in the privacy projects, to define KPIs, because that really comes more or less from a, in my point of view, budget aim, or keeping budgets and time budgets. And then what I find quite important is project reviews and seeing what happened well, where can we improve for further projects, and and just like a constant communication in these fields, in order to have vivid discussions with your client. So Marisa, please feel free to add.
Well, I think in this part you did had what I was going. I think you covered it very well. I'm actually a little bit concerned with time. That I know that we have the slides, so if we can still have an overview of the slides, we are going to leave a little moment for Q&A. And do you agree, Guido, that we try now to go a little bit to the next slides more?
Yeah, it's just like, basic information, how to define objectives. And
Yes.
it's just like, all these, let's say, simple things, or this, low-hanging fruits. It's just like information gathering.
This part is actually, for me, I always say that is where is worthy. Invest a lot of time, not rushing to it. That teams should really sit and have the capacity to invest this time to go through proper scope definition, to understand what is the end result, in the sense, as you mentioned, the deliverables or the outcomes that you wish to have. But this phase of discussion of even the scope itself, having clarity in this understanding of also the time and cost. I would even say, of course, the investment. When you have cost, here is in the two sides of cost and investment needed to be done, and all the risks. So if I would give an extra advice on the top of this, is to invest as much as you can in this beginning. At the building of the house, the proper strong foundations will allow you to build a stronger house. If the foundations are not so strong, whatever stages come after will always have the results of this lack of investment. So I would say, for me, this is where I want to always spend more time. And sometimes people say, yeah, but we cannot always see it later. I would say, do not save in the time of thinking, and properly design the beginning, because you will see the investment return when things do then get into such a better development, because you did create the better basis for it. So this would be for this slide in particular, and for this phase in particular, it's my own thoughts and my own experience of trial and error, and understand the benefits of staying here with capacity in this stage.
That's so true. But I would add to it that scoping and planning is really key. So you will see that from the slides anyways. because it's like you said, Marisa, it's so very important, and it usually avoids poor performance in the end. So if you don't have a proper plan, and you can see that not only from legal projects but from all other project approaches, whether it's construction or whether it's IT projects. So really defining expectations, scopes, the circumstances you really work in, the literacy of your client, and then do a proper planning of the project. So what is needed, where you really want to aim at, and what are just like time, material involved, really helps you with getting things done. And you can do it either, let's say, the old school way. I would just like to skip through it a little bit. The old school way, doing just like a waterfall methodology, or you can do it with more modern methodology like Scrum. So I like this picture because it comes actually from rugby, and Dirk will love it, I would say, because it gives you a good picture. The aim of Scrum is to just like move in a direction, or everybody's just like moving into the same direction in order to get things done, in order to just like get a perfect position for the next attacking action in rugby. So that's actually where this comes from. And when you look at risk of project failure, it usually comes from uncertainty combined with project length. The longer you keep a window open, the more likely is that somebody's just like bursting through it. And if you're just like shutting windows really quickly, and you're just like keeping risk low by probably smaller sprints you can establish, or just like further discussions in order to get rid of impediments, that will really speed. Or it's just like OKRs, which is more or less defining your objectives and the key results you want to achieve. It's just like having a fluid and an agile way to define the scope and the planning. So and that's worthwhile considering. Agile doesn't necessarily mean that it's totally free. So it's a very, very set framework you would have to work in order to get things done faster and better.
I would say that to be agile, you need to know very well the lines.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like I don't play rugby. We need to have indeed Dirk to give us some lessons to understand properly the metaphor. But let's not forget that agility, it's normally operating in a framework, either a field, either rules. So I think, and those definitions are a prerequisite of it all. You cannot be agile in total chaos. So you do need to design your lines, and your the field of the game needs to be designed in order for you to then to be agile within. So sometimes I think people forget that agility is different from chaos.
Yeah, for sure.
And the planning, right? The planning, it's such a headache for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Because my experience is everything you lack within the design phase of a project usually will hurt you a lot. Either because the project is not timely, or it's getting more and more expensive. We know that from legal, we know that from software development, and we know that from the problem that we cannot change historical facts. So we have to live with that. So that's why I always say planning is key, no matter what you're doing on your client's side, on your side as well, on the software developer side. And I always ask myself why nobody's considering that properly. That's pretty clear, and this is really a low-brainer in my point of view. And then it's just like Marisa said, executing a plan, is if you have a good scoping and a good just like planning, you can deploy the right people to the right tasks, which is very important as well. And you're able to assign and delegate authority effectively. You can give, another prerequisite to do though is giving timely and objective and specific feedback so everybody's getting better, everybody knows what to do. And then it's just like managing the team. It's just like I said, if everybody's moving in the right direction and everybody knows what to do, it's just like smoothly running. And that's why collaborative teams and a good, just like team and client communication is key as well, in order that everybody does his homework. Another point, in my opinion, expectation management is really important. The management of expectations, especially with your client, is really, really key, because too many times it happened to me that your client is coming up with totally unrealistic timeframes. So I want this contract by tomorrow or something like that. Marisa, you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
And this is really, really a hard one, because you really have to revert to it. Either you want a good contract, then we need a little bit more time, or you get something, what will not work for you, because you will, have a lot of renegotiation and whatsoever afterwards. Just imagine, this case we had. Your client wants to set up a technical software database mirror for a cancer genome database, and they wanted us to have contracts. And my first question was, what shall we deliver? What shall this contract deliver to you? And this was and I'm really talking about big German, just like research institutes and just like cluster universities everybody knows. And that question was so unfamiliar that they didn't answer it for just like 20 minutes in a video conference. So it's just very important to just like get things smoothly done. And then it's just like monitor and measuring progress, and if that is possible, I really have to say, if that is possible. Sometimes it's not so easy to measure progress in a, let's say, contractual project, or an M&A project, or in a let's say data privacy project. And then it's just like thinking about bottlenecks, redundancies, inefficiencies, and the rest are just like more, let's say, business point of views. And sometimes I'm not too convinced about taking legal as really from a business approach, because what we really have to consider is that we have to deploy a certain quality in our work. So
Well,
this is
and also it's good that you mentioned the word quality, because we had this conversation, the two of us, recently in stage, also listening to some tool presentation where the gentleman said, well, because we know that legal doesn't bring value to the business, in a sense. And he showed a beautiful graphic to see what was the value of the company. And it was about sales and all that. And I was astonished of the ignorance of this comment, because in order to understand the value of non-tangible services, you need to understand what the services do deliver. In this sense, they deliver, in principle, the basis for all the rest of the business to work. Or in this case, when it does not work, that the business can defend itself from, for example, bills that were not, invoices that were not paid, contracts that were not, in the sense, operating till their end. So such a big vision that was not present in that stage. But at the same time, and I think it's very important as well, is that understanding that budgeting, right? When now we need to decide on tools for our own teams. One of the big arguments I see is always efficiency and time saving. There's two big arguments of the tools: efficiency and time saving. That does not ever be a guarantee of value, neither quality. So I do think that we have a long path to go also, of course, in the technology, but the critical thinking of time saving of what? And I always share this story because it's so important, at the same time so troubling for me, that I was approached by a company that says that they can now review contracts so much faster and so much cheaper. So the idea is that our own office would work with them. And after seeing why is cheaper, I understand then the problem of the quality. So what they do is not a reading of the contract. They do not read the full contract. They read in vertical the main clauses. And that's why instead of having a contract review that would easily will take you 8 hours, because just reading the full contract is going to take you time, but then understanding what are the rules of the company, what are the risk management processes of the company. Nothing is there. So what you produce in the end is a kind of a report of the main clauses, and who decides who are the main risk clauses. And there's really no parameters besides what is known as the most relevant clauses of a contract. But who says then that this company paid for quality and for value? I would say in my 20 years of career that I would not want that for my own business. Therefore, I would prefer then not to have said that I did spend money in a contract review. That is not a contract review. So I think it's also important to create this knowledge to the market that efficiency and time saving is neither value, neither quality, and hopefully the best tools will give these 4 vectors of efficiency, time, quality, and value.
I just want to add one thought, because, you know, it's efficiency and monitoring, measuring comes a lot of times from cost-saving issues, which a legal department has, for instance, because it's just like considered a cost center. And they're more or less sometimes facing the same problems as we do, because, you know, the lacking literacy of their business lines. So they really have to cope, you know, what they're getting. And it's just like a fat tail, because then the risks change, and that's why I'm not really a big friend of just like looking only at cost effectiveness and an approach. Okay, we take the cheapest supplier in order to solve a problem, which doesn't necessarily needs to be the best approach. And secondly, what I think is, especially from a in-house perspective, as well from a lawyer's perspective, as well from a technology perspective, is, you know, how you can support the business. You know, it's sometimes getting through faster. You know, if you're able to onboard new suppliers whatsoever in less time, because you have good processes and a good, just like, you know, feeling what to look at. This usually, you know, helps the business in order to earn money. So it's very hard to measure it against just like a sales team where you can say they have 20% more sales for that certain area, and it's really a problem in a law firm as well, from my experience. So if you're just like shifting your business from one, just like say, service to another, sometimes it just takes a little time, and then you don't bill enough money, and you get problems and discussions with your partners you don't really want to have. So just the money focus, I think you really have to be very careful with that. Sure.
And in the sense of the careful, our time did expire, and
Yes.
we are not in the clock ourselves. We would be able to comfortably be here longer. We will for sure, but we do need to have also in mind our members that attend to the seminar and that do need to continue their works. I invite you all. I see that we have here questions in the chat. They will be answered directly, but I will invite you all to join us to the next series that will come. So we have dates, much more topics. As I said, please do join us also in provoking us. What topics do you want to bring to this series? And Guido, to you, I would say see you soon and hopefully continue this path to better skills and better knowledge in this sector.
Marisa, thanks you so much. I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, let's do the next one within the next couple of weeks. So
yes, see you soon, guys.
see you. Bye-bye.